So this is the story of how I was able to replace my 9-to-5 income as a completely, as a new artist. And I did all this I did this within 90 days, and I did this while I was pregnant with a 1-year-old. This is just my story. So when I was really young, I've always wanted to own my own business. Ever since I was a little girl, I was like, I am going to one day own my own business. I wasn't raised in a family of entrepreneurs. My mom was a single mom who worked really hard to support me and my sister. And I just remember thinking that because she worked really hard and I wanted her to be home with us a lot, because, you're a little kid, you want your mom, but she had to work and she was always picking up overtime and she didn't really love her job. She always said she was very blessed to have it, but she didn't love her job. And I never really knew anybody in my life that loved their job. Everyone that I knew seemed to just be working to one day retire. And I thought, wow, that is so sad. I never want to do that. I don't want to and some of these people went to college, a lot of them went to college and they were working in jobs that they still were really unhappy in. And I thought, I never want to be in that position. I don't ever want to be in a position where I am going somewhere for 8 hours out of my precious day to do something I really don't like doing, also that when I'm old, I can retire. That's what I thought back then, I just thought that's the most depressing thing ever. I didn't want to do that. So I knew that I wanted freedom. I knew I wanted to be able to be my own boss. I wanted to own my own business. But I never really knew what I wanted to do. So I was just reading a bunch of business books, and I loved learning about business. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I've always been creative. Didn't even think about possibly going into arts because, the term starving artist. I thought, okay, you can't really make much money there. I don't want to get into a position or do something where I'm going to have to really struggle. So didn't even consider it. But I've always loved making things. I think deep down, I always wished I could do that, but I was like, yeah, no way, not going to do that. And I mean, to be honest, it's not like I had talent as a artist, a traditional artist, painting. I just loved arts and crafts type stuff. So yeah, so besides the fact that I didn't really think you could make any money, I knew I didn't really have talent. I wasn't a talented drawer or something. I knew kids that were when I was in high school that were so talented, but wasn't me. So flash forward to many, many years later when I had my first daughter, and I was working at the time in an office job that I was miserable in. I hated sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day and spreadsheets. I hate doing Excel spreadsheets. I hate paperwork. I hated all of it. And I just wasn't happy. I definitely wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't using my creativity. I wasn't doing anything that was making me happy as far as my job. And I just was really aware that, okay, Alicia, you got to get it together. And not only that, I was really, really depressed. I had crippling anxiety, and I didn't have God in my life at the time. I was raised a Catholic, but I wasn't, practicing my faith. I was just selfishly living and doing absolutely nothing that I should have been doing, as far as for God. And I was broken. I was so broken. And that reminds me of the Bible verse of this. Let me pull it up real quick. I have it right here. It is John 15. John 15:5. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned. I was that branch. I was completely cut off from God, not living my life for him. I was so dead. I was so dead inside. I was so broken. I was so depressed. I was using alcohol to deal with my anxiety and my depression. My life was a mess. So yeah. Okay, but then it goes on. If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish and it will be done for you. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. Oh, he's so good. So he wants us to stay in him, and he will bless us. And it doesn't mean, I'm not trying to say like, okay, you're going to get whatever you want. If we, as a Catholic, you know your faith, and you know that's not how it works. God is a wonderful Father, and he gives to us what is good for us. Even if we might not like it at the time, he always does what is good for us, and he will take care of us and continue to provide for us as long as we remain in his wills. So when I came back to the Catholic Church, after I had my first daughter, I was like, what is this? Like, this beautiful baby. I am now responsible for taking care of this beautiful baby, and all I wanted to do was protect her. And it was then, at that time, it was so glaringly obvious that the way I was living, I didn't want to bring that ugliness around my beautiful baby. And I was like, I've got to change. I have got to change. Like, the depression, the anxiety, the drinking, using alcohol to cope with all of my emotional health problems, like everything, that not having God. At that point, like, seeing my daughter, it was like seeing God. And it was like, wow, God, like, thank you. Like, you've blessed me with this beautiful baby. It was just like a wake up call. Like, I have got to change my life. So I came back to the Catholic Church, and I was so on fire. And then, as another thing, I started saying the rosary, and I 1000% credit the rosary and our Blessed Mother, our beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Blessed Mother, with saving me, with bringing me back to her Son in a way that I never thought was possible for me. I changed my life. My depression, absolutely gone. Anxiety, gone. Like, it was just, my life just changed through the rosary. And so when I was like, okay, what business am I going to start? I was like, anything I do from this point out going forward has to be for God. I had wasted so much of my life. So much of my life was wasted doing stupid stuff, horrible stuff. So I was like, no, anything, if I have any little bit of talent, if I could gain any little bit of skill, like learn painting and learn how to paint something, it's going to be for God, to give him glory. So I thought, okay, what if I learned to paint the Virgin Mary? And I've always been into like fashion, and like I love design and pretty things. And I thought, like, okay, so what if I can learn to paint the Virgin Mary? I knew I didn't have great art skills, but what if I could like learn to paint her at least good enough, decent enough, to where I could like, add things to her, like gold foil, glitter. I ended up using Swarovski rhinestones. And I was like, I think I can make, like something of that. I think I could do something with that. So I thought, okay, if I make her look like really beautiful and like make my artwork stand out, I think this would sell. And whenever we glorify his mother, she just brings it right back to Jesus. So any amount of glory we give to the Virgin Mary, it's really just glorifying Jesus. So I was like, okay, I'm not going back to my office job. I'm not going to go back to that job, leave my babies. I was pregnant with my second at the time, and my first daughter was only a year. I was like, I'm not going to go back to that job. I am going to figure this out. I'm going to really simplify this painting process, because I didn't have a lot of time to learn. I did not have time to learn to become a master painter or learn any of I was just like, I have to break this down, simplify it. I could do this, and then I'll come in with other things and embellish it and make it look really pretty. Which is exactly what I did. And I was really at the time thinking like, okay, all I have to do is just really get good at one main design. If I could get good at one main design, I could kind of use that as my template and make just completely like just all these other pieces of her based off of that one design, and I've got to just get better and better and better. And I was like, I could do this. I know I could do this. And so I started researching. Like, I was doing like all kinds of market research and like looking out at like all the, from art to jewelry, what was popular, what was the religious art, Catholic art. And so there's so many amazing things out there. And if you go on Instagram and you look at the artists that are Instagram, you're going to be like, I could never do, these people are so amazingly talented. But I found And I remembered, I was like, you know, those little figurines that you see in Hallmark, they sell them like in a lot of Catholic stores too, the little willow tree figures. Susan Lordy, I think that's her name. She's the artist. And so she has this whole line, and it's so popular. I know you've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it. Those little figurines, they're little willow tree figurines. I think that's what they're called, willow tree. She made her whole business based off of those very simplified designs. Like, look at her designs. They don't even have faces, so there's no detail on the face, but they're beautiful. They're so beautiful, and they're very simple. She adds things to them. She decorates them in really beautiful ways. And I was like, yes, that is all I needed to know. Like, if this lady can build a brand, and she has a brand deal with, I forget, the Damasco or something, I don't know. But if she could create this whole line that's wildly popular in all these stores, I could do the same thing with the Virgin Mary. Like, if I could just get good and really simplify it, simple designs, think simple, I could do it. That's what I did. So I happen to have some leftover Swarovski rhinestones from another project, added them to Mama Mary's halo, because actually that's when I think of, like, when I pray or say the rosary, I'm always trying to envision like her standing there, or Jesus. And I always picture them like with glittering lights all around them. So adding the crystals to her halo around her to surround them was like, yes, it just made sense. And it took off. I got a really good response when I posted it online, and here we are. So that was how I was going to stand out in this crowded art market. And that's exactly what's happened. So here are 3 things that I really want you guys to know and to understand about if you're thinking of starting a sacred art business. And really, honestly, this can be applied to any art business, but right here, you know, I'm talking about a Virgin Mary icon art business. So number 1, you need to know that you do not have to be a great artist to be a successful artist. You can take whatever limited talent you have, and if you find a way to stand out in a crowded art space, in this business also, in basic business principle, if you can find a way to stand out in a crowded market, that's amazing. You're going to stand out. You're going to do well. So you don't need to have fancy skills. You just have to come up with a very simplified process and find a way to stand out. We all have a unique set of creativity. We all have our own unique thoughts and creativity, and we're each very uniquely made. We know that. You're Christian, you're Catholic, you know that. So there's no reason why your artwork should blend in with a sea of other or similar artworks. If you paint seascapes, your seascapes should be like, people should see them and be like, wow, that's a Jennifer Smith, or, you know, what, like, you should just know that, because you're so unique. You have your own unique, beautiful thoughts, but we're often so caught up in like trying to compete or trying to be like someone else that it ends up like dimming our light, dims our creativity. It takes away from what we could truly do. So we really need to foster that. So what I did to really like find ways that I was going to find my way to stand out was I was researching on Pinterest, like everything from design to fashion to jewelry, interior design, all the texture, looking at everything, trying to figure out, what do I like? What speaks to me? What do I gravitate towards? And I have always loved glittery, shiny things. I love texture. I am so inspired by, if you look like in Spain, you know, some of the Latin American countries, their religious artwork is just like, oh my, they make Jesus and Mama Mary look like a king and like royalty. They are dripping in gold and jewels and just all about the royalty that Jesus and Mama Mary are. And I love that. I love that. Jesus is the King of Kings. His mother is the Queen of Heaven. Wow. Like I'm so inspired by that. And if you're thinking of starting a religious artwork, I mean, obviously you're going to like things that are completely different than me, but if you are like me, you want to make them also look like royalty, like, because they are royalty. Like that's so amazing. So I was so inspired by that. I'm so in love with the Latin American way of portraying Jesus and Mama Mary, just like absolute king and queens, like what they are. And in my artwork, I tried to portray that, like, and with the jewels, I use a lot of gold. That is what speaks to me. That's how I'm going to carve my little niche out here, was doing that. And I just, and I thought in the commercial art space, like that would be beautiful. So that's what I did. You, with your artwork, whatever it is that you want to paint, even if it's not, religious icons, look at ways that you can stand out, that you can make your artwork stand out to where people are like, whoa, that's different, because it should be different. You are unique and your artwork should be different, and it shouldn't look exactly like someone else's. Tip number 2, or I don't know tip, but like important thing that I need you to know, number 2, is you can make money as a religious icon painter. And this is something that I was struggled with in the beginning. That's why I want to talk about it, and why I think it's so important to talk about. Because when I was just getting started, I had no idea, can you even make money? Like, if I paint the Virgin Mary, if I get into this, will anyone actually want to pay me for one of my paintings? Like, is this gonna work? I couldn't find anything out there. I was searching everywhere, trying to find someone talking about this, and I didn't find anything. So to really give all of your time, all of your creativity to something that, when you're worried about how am I going to buy groceries next week, or how am I going to pay my mortgage or my carpet, when you're not able to fully give yourself, what would end up happening is you'd end up okay, forget this business, I got to go do something else because I have to provide for my family. So that's why I think it's really important to talk about this. I mean, anytime you apply for a job, that's one of the first questions that you have to know. You have to know, am I going to make enough money to support my family, to support my life, to support myself, to pay my bills? These are important questions, and they're wise questions, and they're things we have to know to make a very informed decision about something, right? Or about a job, right? So it's the same thing with this. I want you to know that you can actually make a very, very, very good living doing this. And in all the business books I had read, and I don't know why at the time I hadn't thought about this, but when basic business rule is you want to find something with low supply and a high demand, right? Okay, well, there's 1.4 billion Catholics in the world, and not all are practicing of that number. I know there's a whole lot that goes into that, but there's a lot of Catholics with very, very strong devotions and a very strong love for Mama Mary. I was one of them. That's what got me into this. I love her, and I think of her as my mother. So with that type of emotional connection, with that type of devotion, you have a large group of people with this very, very strong devotion. There is not a lot of Catholic artists in the world. I'm not saying there's none out there, because there's some incredibly beautiful artists on Instagram that I found that make Catholic artwork. In fact, there's a few of them that inspired me to start doing this. So there are out there, but in proportion to the amount of demand that there is out there, there's not a lot. there's not a lot. So hello, like I was like, oh my gosh, Alicia, why didn't I think of this? Because once I started getting into it and I started building, you know, I was selling my work, people were like messaging me left and right. Like they wanted custom pieces, they wanted, you know, large orders. And I was like, I can't do it. I'm a mom, I have small babies. Like I can't do it. Even to this day, I don't take on custom orders. Very rarely do I commissions. I just don't have time, especially after I had my fourth baby, Luke. I had him, he's gonna be a year now. Like my day to day is just crazy. It's wild. Like I always have one baby crying on my leg. I'm holding another baby. My other daughter, 3-year-old, is asking for something and they're fighting and it's just wild. So like I make very limited amount of pieces. I hardly make originals. I just don't have time. So it's crazy. But the demand that I see there, I'm like, wow, okay, quick note here. I'm starting an art program where I'm going to teach people how to make crystallized Marian icons like I make, and how to sell them and how to build these incredible businesses. So if you want to find out more about that, you could go to, I'll put a link at the bottom of this video, but that's why I'm doing this, because I know that there's high demand here. I see the reaction that my artwork with the crystals and everything has. And I'm like, I would love to help somebody else set up a business, teach them how to do what I'm doing. And they could, I think a business like that, because it's changed my life, would change somebody else's. It could potentially change yours, or the way it has blessed my family, the way it's blessed my life is, I would love to help somebody else do that. So yeah. But even if you don't want to do like my program, or, you know, you want to get into this space, but you don't want to use crystals and you have your own ideas, that's amazing. I want you to know that the demand for this type of artwork is there, because right now there's not a lot out there. So this is a beautiful, beautiful business model to get into. Just some food for thought. And just let me also say this though. I am not saying this isn't a get rich quick scheme. Again, I know I said this earlier. If you don't have a love for Jesus, for a devotion to our Blessed Mother, don't do this. Because to produce something really beautiful piece of art, it has to come from your heart. There has to be love in your heart there for whatever it is that you're going to make. Otherwise, it won't be sustainable. You won't be able to, it will fizzle out and die, to be honest. So there's thousands of other businesses that you could do. Don't do something like this just because I or anybody else is telling you like it's a good business opportunity. Don't do it. For me, I love them so much, and I love doing this and making artwork that glorifies them and shining light to them, that brings attention to them. Like that, I just feel it's just so meaningful to me, and I don't ever plan on retiring. Like I want to do this for the rest of my life. And there's so many times throughout the day that I tell my husband, I cannot believe I get to do this. I cannot believe I get to do this, that I get to make this artwork and sell it. And it's wild. And important thing number 3 that I need you to know is you don't need a lot of time to learn the skill of how to paint Jesus and our Blessed Mother. You can start a very, very profitable, successful business by simplifying your learning process. You don't have to be Michelangelo. You don't have to be the next Leonardo da Vinci. You just have to have a process that teaches you. You have to come up with a way to simplify your paintings, and over time you will get better. But maybe you're in a job right now and you're like, oh, I want to switch. I want to do something else. Like, can I do this on the side? You can stay up a little bit later. You can, like I said, not scroll through Instagram for an hour a day. Use that hour to work on building something, on learning a skill, on learning how to paint, Mama Mary. So you don't need a lot of time. I had very little time, and I was doing this like during nap times. I loved it so much, honestly. I wanted to just keep painting and painting and painting that me staying up like an hour or two later than I normally would at night didn't feel like a sacrifice. I was so excited to get back into that room. I couldn't stay up too late because I knew my daughter would be up at like 6 the next morning. So I had to go to bed, but I wanted to stay up. I wanted to keep painting. I was having so much fun. And it's still like that to this day. Like it's so much fun. If you're a creative person making this kind of artwork where you know you're not just creating something beautiful for yourself, you're making it so someone else can take that and bring that into their home, and it could help them worship Jesus, and you're making it for Jesus. It's so beautiful, and it's so meaningful, and it's so impactful. And any little sacrifice of time that you might have to give to this is just, but you don't need a lot. That's it. You don't need a lot of time. Just little bits of time a day, an hour, half hour, 20 minutes, whatever you can give. But it's worth doing, and it's worth building something, because this could potentially, doing something like this, starting an art business, could potentially change your life. And I know that because it changed mine, and I'm living proof of that. I can't even believe where my life is today. So, and now let me just say this. If you're someone who was like me, how I was 5 years ago, and you're stuck in this job, and you have this like feeling inside of you, like there's more to life. You want more out of life. You want to do something amazing with your life. Like, I get that. I was there. I want you to know that there's hope. We get one life. And I'm so aware of this, that sometimes like I get in this mood that because we get one life, one little short, small, beautiful life, one life. And if we don't, we are responsible for what we do with it. So if we don't ever try to do something, like if we have a big dream, big goals, if there's something little nagging feeling in your heart that like, I should be doing this, I could do more, I don't want to be in this job, like, you are the one that's responsible for taking that step and actually trying to change your circumstances right now. I know that because I look at my kids, and I'm like, I picture my like hands out, and like sand or water is just flowing through them, like, and it's time. It's like a representation of time in my mind, that it's just flowing through my hands, and I can't grasp it or stop it. I can't grasp it or stop it. And I want to be with my babies. I want to enjoy every minute of my life. And we have to work, and we have to do things that we don't always love doing. I'm not saying that, but it's just, I'm alive. You're alive. Like, take advantage of that time. And one day we're going to be sitting, maybe not on our deathbed. Maybe we'll just be 90 years old, sitting there thinking, reflecting on our life. I'm going to get so emotional. I'm sorry. We'll be sitting there reflecting on our life, thinking, I was 30 years old. I was so young. Why did I think I was old? Why didn't I do more? Why didn't I try to change my life? Or you'll think, I was 40 years old. I was so young. Why didn't I try to do more? Why didn't I take advantage of that? Or you'll think, I was only 50 years old. Why didn't I try to do something? Why didn't I try to do more? That type of regret is something I don't ever want to have. So I want to know that I tried everything I could to live the life that I feel called to live, to do something that I feel called to do more, to not be stuck in an office job or whatever job. And I'm not saying, if you're happy in your job, I'm obviously not talking to you, because that's amazing. If you're happy in your job, that's a blessing. God bless you. I wish I had that. Well, I do have that. I have that now, but But if you're not, as long as you're alive, as long as you're breathing, as long as you have your health, as long as you can move, you have the ability to change and to do something really amazing with your life. And it might fail. I knew that. I was like, I know I might fail at doing this, but I'm going to give it everything I can. I'm going to give it everything I have. And I'm still doing that to this day. I might fail, but I'm going to give it everything I can. So I hope that you take this video, and I hope it inspires you to do something that might be on your heart already, but you might not feel confident in taking that first step, or you might not know what to do, or maybe you are like me and you want to start a sacred art business, and maybe you see my pieces online, and you think like, I wish I could paint like that. I wish I could have a business like that, because I get some of you messaging me that. And that's why I'm going to be starting an art program that will help the people who want my help, like want the people that want to learn to do what I do, because you might not want to do crystallized icons, and that's totally fine. Like if you have another like idea, do it, please. I just hope this video encourages you not to give up and to try doing something, because you could potentially change your life. It could be something very amazing. But for the people that want to paint, like make crystallized Virgin Mary icons, like the way I make them, I'm starting a program, and I'm going to be starting very soon, where I'm going to teach you everything. I will walk with you, help you build out your business. I will help you learn how to paint these, how to make amazingly, stunningly beautiful Mama Mary icons with crystals, and I'll help you, start. I'll show you how to sell them, start your Instagram account, do all that. So if you're interested, you can go below. Again, I'll put that at the bottom of this video. But either way, I hope this video blesses you. And I truly, truly mean it when I say God bless you. And thank you for watching.